Let's go to the man of the moment then. Shadow Energy Minister Dan Tehan joins us live from Canberra, Parliament House, Canberra. Good to speak to you, Dan. I want to try and get through a bit very quickly here, so try and have some short answers, right? Your priority now, the Liberals, is going to be energy affordability and reliability and reducing emissions as a second order priority, right? So how are you going to get prices down?
Energy abundance, Chris. We want to make sure we bring all our natural resources to the task. As you know, one of the number one principles of economics is if you put supply into the market, you drive downward pressure on prices.
So how do you get more gas-fired generation into the market quickly?
Well, you add it to the capacity investment scheme. You make sure you've got annual leases being released. You're making sure that you're doing everything you can to get more gas on board. You're making sure that you're happy to work with states and in sweating coal assets. There's making sure that we lift the nuclear ban so in the future we can bring zero emissions free nuclear into the grid. We want to bring everything, all our natural resources that we have as a country to bear in this task.
It's hard to understand why anybody would oppose lifting the nuclear ban, but that would be a hell of a task to get that through any Senate any time. But if you can get rid of the ban, are you going to argue that nuclear only happens if it's commercial? There'll be no government subsidies of nuclear?
Well, what we want to do is make sure that government would have a role when it comes to safety, government would have a role when it comes to regulation. Obviously, where we need to, we would incentivise nuclear to be part of our electricity grid like we do with other forms of energy. So we're more than happy to do that, but we want to bring private capital to bear to this task, like what is occurring in the United States. As you've seen, with AI, with data centres, everyone is looking to see how they can go about getting more energy. And we want to make sure that we're looking at all forms to be able to bring that here to Australia so that we know that when it comes to AI and data centres, when it comes to what's going to be happening globally with still another 4.5 billion people to be lifted out of poverty, that we're bringing all our natural resources to bear in that task.
Now, you talk about sweating those coal assets. That's already happening. State governments are subsidising coal generation to keep it going because we need it, even though all the state and federal policies are aimed at driving it out. Doesn't that mean there's no chance for any new coal generation because the market is so stacked against them?
Well, we want to, this is a very Liberal Party policy that we're taking, and that's why when it comes to energy abundance, when it comes to energy affordability for households, we want to bring all our natural resources to that effort and all technology to that effort. In the same way with emissions reduction, we want to bring all technologies to that task as well, whether it be carbon capture and storage, whether it be zero emissions nuclear. Why wouldn't you use market fundamentals as a Liberal Party, as a coalition, to this task? And that's what we're seeking to do.
Now, apart from explaining your own policy options, are you going to make this your number one priority as a government to attack what's happening now, the complete undermining of our energy grid? And as part of that, are you prepared to call out the constant lies that somehow Australia's environmental policies are going to change the global climate when anybody with any understanding of the science and the economics and the engineering knows that that simply is not the case?
We are absolutely going to call the government out for all their lies. As you know, we're meant to have a $275 reduction in our power bills by the end of this year. And the Prime Minister stated on over 90 occasions that that is what was going to happen. And we've seen nothing of the type. What we'll also do.
But I just want to jump in there. We're seeing people like Anthony Albanese and Sarah Hanson-Young and all sorts of others scaring our kids by saying, changing our policies here, we're going to have more droughts, more fires, more floods, God knows what else. When anybody who understands the science knows that's not true, and I'm not arguing Australia should do nothing. Of course, we should try and do our bit. but we have to be realistic with people and let them understand whatever happens to the climate is going to happen to us regardless of what we do with our 1% or less of global emissions.
Yeah, climate change is a global issue and it needs a global solution. That's absolutely clear. Now, we need to do our fair share and we've put in place a mechanism for us to be able to do that. But, we need to do our bit, but also what we need to see is the rest of the world to do their bit. And, as you're very, very aware at the moment, there is a COP that is taking place. Countries are meant to put their nationally determined contributions in as part of that COP process. I think at the current moment there are 135 countries which haven't done so at present. So, what we've got to do is be realistic as to what is happening with regards to the global picture, but at the same time be responsible ourselves and do our fair share.
Dan Tehan, thanks for joining us. It's been a big week for you. Appreciate it.